This is Natalie Grace Nichols at age 20. Healthy, active, full of life, and a committed Christian. With a passion for God and a desire to be used by Him, Natalie began ministering as a teenager. She entered college at age 16, years ahead of her peers. But it was her talent as a musician and a gifted speaker that led her to Dallas and the Miss Texas pageant.
Natalie Nichols. My local pageant is held in New Boston.
Here's Natalie in the talent phase of the Miss Texas pageant. This is Natalie 5 years later. She is waging a losing battle against an unknown disease. It has slowly robbed her of her life and her dignity. Though it began with simple pain and fatigue, over time, every organ system of her body was affected. She became bedridden, unable to feed herself or speak above a whisper. She has undetected Lyme disease. Lyme is a bacterial infection that, if not accurately diagnosed and treated, advances throughout the body. Natalie's disease has advanced and consumed what was left of her mind. Though finally diagnosed, it seemed for the next 3 years that the disease would win. Through those 3 years, Natalie waited as God kept and cared for her in the hollow of His hand. Then at His appointed time, as He had promised, God began restoring her slowly, steadily, and surely. Only the grace of God has sustained Natalie. His grace and His written word have assured her that He loves her, that He and He alone is in control, and that all things work together for the good of them that love Him.
Suellen Roberts from Dallas. Welcome to our program. I'm so glad that you've joined us. We've got a great program for you today. Our special guest is Natalie Nichols. In 1991, at 20 years old, Natalie was a senior honor student at Baylor University, a talented musician and gifted motivational speaker. In a matter of weeks, an undiagnosed illness suddenly progressed, taking her on a downward spiral. Finally, in 1996, after 8 years of increasing illness, a correct diagnosis was made: late stages of Lyme disease. By this time, there was little left, and that resembled the 18-year-old who had begun the journey. Welcome, Natalie. I'm just so glad that you are here to join us and tell your story to us.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here too.
Well, we just, you're sitting here, beautiful, lovely, and just conversing, and it's just so hard to believe that you had a deadly disease. It's just a miracle.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I just wanted to have you tell your story to the viewers and start with, you were in the Miss Texas pageant. How did all that happen?
Well, actually, just by divine providence, I guess. I was taking voice lessons from someone who had a previous Miss Texas, had been a choreographer in his music department at the university where he taught. And when I was taking voice lessons from him, he just seemed like I would enjoy it, which was true. He suggested that I might perhaps get involved in that. And he was right. I really did enjoy it. My temperament was very suited for that environment, and the discipline and the coaching for the talent and interview, and, you know, of course, I mean, how can a girl not like having makeup artists and you know, dress designers pick out, the most perfect thing out of thousands of color red. Let's find the exact color. So, what girl would it not suit? Probably.
Yes.
So it was really fun and it was rewarding, and it benefited me in many, many areas in my life. It was a really good training ground, and a training ground that I intended to pursue, because that pageants are sort of like a university. It's at least a 3-year program, for maybe even 5-year program. So you don't just go and win, at least on the state level, usually. Not one as large as Miss Texas. You don't go and win your first year.
Oh, really?
So,
really? I didn't realize that. That's interesting that you say that. And you wound up being runner-up, was it, for Miss Texas?
Oh, I wish.
Well, anyway, you were in it.
I was in it, and I was runner-up to somebody who was pretty far down the line. As I started going back the next year, I did much better, and the experience under my belt, it helped a lot.
Yes.
So.
Oh, I'm sure. And part of the talent, you play the piano beautifully, and I know we have some clips that have been, but it's amazing with the gifts and talents that you do have, how you were able to use those over the years. I wanted to ask you about, as a senior, in your senior year at Baylor, you were an honor student. What happened?
Well, actually, I began having, it just creeped up on me. I began having a burning arm pain. A little bit prior to Miss Texas, but I really just ignored it, and I had a stiff neck, and I was exercising a tremendous amount, not sleeping, trying to keep up with school and the pageant. And in fact, it blows my mind now to think I would drive an hour and a half from Waco to Fort Worth just to exercise with a trainer, turn around and go right back to Waco. It just blows my mind. So I was tired, and I attributed it to that. But, and I went through the pageant, and really in all other aspects, feeling the best that I had felt in my life, the most energetic, and just in the brightest mood, and most able to capitalize on every moment of life. Just really felt great. But about 4 weeks after the pageant, when I began taking a summer school course, I began having burning pain in my forearms and hands. And I just, ignored it, but it was really painful. And then as time for fall study drew near at Baylor and everything gets back into normal gear, although I was a voice major under a music education degree, I also studied piano because that was the love of my life. I'd started it since I was 4 years old and had just lived on the piano basically, 4 to 6 hours a day practice. I just loved it. Well, the pain was really preventing me from playing, and my professor at that time was really quite concerned and didn't think it was advisable to keep going. So she sent me to a hand specialist there in Waco, where the university is, and he said that it was probably tendonitis and just to rest it. Gave me all sorts of hand braces to sleep in and did biofeedback and all sorts of things. And so I rested my hand. I did all my coursework orally. My professors let me do tests on a recorder even. They were very accommodating. However, a year later, it was no better at all. And in that process of, it not improving, I had seen another internist in my hometown who thought it was lupus, and the test really seemed to indicate that. I'd been to a rheumatologist in Dallas, a very well-known, respected rheumatologist, and we were expecting him to confirm lupus. My parents went with me, and he said, our fears were just put to rest when he said it was just because I was a type A personality, just to chill out, enjoy life, don't worry about grades, and it would get better. But it didn't. So it just